Okay, so we're now going to look at anonymous functions and what it means to be an anonymous function in PHP. Now, an anonymous function is essentially a function without a name, so it hasn't been given a specific name. We've already seen that we can do something like function name and then define a block, and we can return something inside of here. But with an anonymous function, it's perfectly valid to say function return something, remembering that we need a semicolon instead on the end of this. So what happens now is this is perfectly valid syntax. It doesn't make too much sense in this case because we have no way to call this function now. What we can do, however, is we can assign the function a name through a variable. So I'm just going to say 5. So now what I can do is I can actually call this variable as if it's a function, because technically it is a function, but we've just said that we're putting a function within this. We're not actually giving the function a name. So now when I go ahead and refresh, I haven't echoed anything out. We will see if we echo 5 like this, we get the value 5, and we can do exactly the same thing with things like returning parameters, or we can do anything with parameters that we want. So we'll just keep that as 5. We'll just say 50 in there, for example. We can do everything that we would normally do with a function as an anonymous function, but there are benefits to anonymous functions, and that's when we start looking at callbacks and having closures. An anonymous function is actually a closure. It just doesn't have a name. That's it. So yeah, like I said, callbacks is a good thing to do in the case of PHP 5 and onwards. But let's take a quick look now at a bit more of this so we can sort of pass these things around. So what we could do is we could in fact say another equals 5. Now what we've effectively done now is allowed us to call or reference the same function with another variable. So now this works in exactly the same way when we refresh. With a normal function, we wouldn't be able to do this. So if you need to reuse functionality but store it in different with different variable names, then that's a use for a closure.